I am with you, psychologist Yulia Latunenko. I have worked as a family psychologist. I provide individual consultations and help people who have psychosomatic illnesses. So 10 things you should not do to yourself. I have already mentioned in my videos that you need to ask yourself a very important question during moments of tension, during conflicts, and when you don't feel very well psychologically, emotionally, or even physically. What am I doing to myself? In general, what am I doing to myself in my life? When I think about this, when I do this, when I talk about myself, when I give myself such and such a rating. And the first thing you should never do to yourself is to focus on what other people think about you. Because people always think something, people think bad things, people think good things about you, but that is not the truth. It's their subjective perception of you, and it is built from their past experiences, their childhood traumas, their emotional and mental development. That is, it's also subjective. If you focus on what people say or think about you, you'll just fall apart into tiny pieces and see yourself in those reflected tiny pieces, small pieces of a mirror. So you won't have a complete understanding of yourself, who you are. Build this complete understanding of yourself and let all these thoughts in your evaluations, interpretation, not enter your consciousness and not become your content. If people say something bad, for example, they say you're this or that, don't justify yourself. Don't prove to people that you're not an elephant or a turtle. It's enough that you know this about yourself. If you start justifying yourself, then you are proving to people only that you are not confident in yourself and you don't even know who you are. You can hang these projections like on a Christmas tree. People always talk about themselves. People project their own projections onto anyone. People see in you what is in themselves. Therefore, you shouldn't rely on their opinions. You need to form, in fact, your own knowledge about yourself. You need to build your self-identification. So who am I? What am I? And all these thoughts. Self-assessments should be stable and not depend on whether you made an impression and what kind of impression on other people. Secondly, what you shouldn't do is never cling to anyone. If someone has caused you pain, let them go from your life. Don't keep chewing over it in your mind. About this person, don't be dependent on them. Accept the fact that a person has the right to be who they are and not meet your expectations. And your clinging to a person only destroys your life. Therefore, when you are very afraid of losing someone and are ready to give up even on yourself, just to not lose the relationship with the person, then ask yourself this very question: and what exactly am I doing to myself? And why am I giving so much value and importance to this person who offends me, who does not respect me, for example, who ignores me? Why has this person become more important to me than I am to myself? Why should all my thoughts and my entire life revolve around some other person? Ask yourself the question, who am I without this person? And you will get many answers that will guide you towards the direction of that inner work with your subconscious. What is it to you that you should undertake? The third thing you shouldn't do to yourself, which is related to the second point, is not really a thing. It will be about things. Do not get attached. Do not be afraid to lose money, a job, a house, relationships, because the world is arranged in such a way that we are constantly losing and letting go of things. Do not fixate on these material things that, sooner or later you will have to let go of, because all people have their beginning and their end, just like the rest of the things in this world. Even nature is arranged in such a way that morning begins, then night comes, autumn, spring, something awakens, something falls asleep, something dies, something appears. That's how the world is arranged. And when you do not agree with the fact that you can lose something in this world, everything, not just people, but also jobs and money, after which people generally fall into very depressive states. If you do not agree with this, then you start a fight, I don't know, with the creation of the world, with how this world is arranged. Ultimately, if you believe in God, with nature you fight, but it is arranged this way and you just need to accept it. The fourth thing you shouldn't do to yourself: concerns, resentment. Do not be offended by people, because people are not obliged to meet your expectations. They are who they are, and they have the right to their own decisions, their own choices. And if it seems to you, or you feel that someone has treated you disrespectfully, offended you, did something mean, betrayed you, they have that choice and responsibility. All these existential phenomena and concepts are within us that we need to become aware of. People have even the right to betrayal, but you can decide how to react without taking offense, whether to forgive the person and stay with them. That is your choice and your responsibility, or forgive the person and not stay, leave them, or not forgive and not stay with them. You have the freedom to choose how to react, how to act. And what we call justice is a very relative concept that each person explains to themselves based on their own interests coming from their own benefits, from their overall projections, their own experience. As they say, what is convenient for me is fair, and everyone has their own sense of justice. She deceives herself. She can justify any immoral thing to herself in such a way that she will excuse herself, justify herself, but she has the right to do so. There is responsibility, which can come to her after many, many years. Let a person follow their own path of development, and do not be offended if they are not as you would like them to be. But relationships are not a one-sided thing. And I would like to add here that if you are outraged by something and cannot understand how a person could act that way, try more to understand your own mind, your own motives for actions, and do not make decisions regarding people, things that you might later regret, be ashamed of. But here, I would like to add a fifth point, the fifth thing you shouldn't do to yourself, and it kind of echoes the fourth. Well, here you try to be so good, so decent, but this is also an extreme position. Don't try to please everyone. Trying to be a good boy or a good girl in everyone's eyes, in those cases when it costs you your mental health, when you are forcing yourself, when you compel yourself to do things that you don't believe in at all and that you consider to be violence against yourself. That is, they do things that border on violence against themselves. And even sometimes, if it concerns, for example, sexual relationships in a couple, it can be sexual violence against oneself when one partner does not want, for instance, physical intimacy, but is afraid to offend, afraid to lose, and goes along with it, committing a terrible bastard act against themselves. Respect, first and foremost, your own boundaries, and do not violate the boundaries of others. Ask people where their personal boundaries lie. But when it comes to your boundaries, use words like no and stop. They help regulate personal boundaries. And if something doesn't feel right to you, whether it's a suggestion or someone's action, don't be afraid to offend those who don't respect that you have boundaries. It's, in principle, a very strange thing. When I have boundaries, but I'm afraid to say something about them because I'm afraid the person will be offended by the fact that I, like everyone else, have personal boundaries. You won't be able to say a sincere yes to someone if you don't learn to say a sincere no. Next, we have the sixth thing you shouldn't tear away from yourself. Don't think that love is a process. I give to you, and you give to me. It's not commerce. It's love. It's the deeds we do for our beloved person. It's giving, selfless giving, after which you feel relieved. When you don't expect any reciprocal actions. I did this for you, and you didn't do this for me. Didn't do this. That's trading, not love. Love has nothing to do with calculation at all. But I want to note that love is still not a one-way street, because in a partnership, love still implies when I do something wonderful for you to make your life easier, to make it pleasant, you accept it. And then you voluntarily give back a little more to me, and I accept it and give you a little more. This is what love is. But if you see that the person you give, you enjoy doing it, and the person just takes, then you need to be careful. You might simply find out that the other person doesn't have the same feeling towards you. And is it worth giving then? When you see that there is nothing from the person, they don't want to make efforts for you. And is it worth making a fuss, making claims that you don't give me any attention, that you don't compliment me, that you don't spend time with me? Don't make these claims. It's better to just gather yourself and leave this person, wishing them happiness, because it might seem that they are simply incapable of love. You might as well approach a tree and ask it to dance with you. A dance, but the tree doesn't have legs. Similarly, some people don't have those options, don't have those skills to care about another person. And love, it is built on empathy. If your loved one lacks this empathy, you can't force them to have it. It's better to gather yourself and leave, preferably before having children, to identify and understand this. You cannot demand from a person to give you something. You desire. You can ask, but the person has the right to say no or yes. Also, I want to make one more remark here, but you can demand from a person respect for your personal boundaries. And if a person does not respect them, violates them, what do? We ask ourselves our favorite question again: what am I doing with myself here in this relationship? The seventh thing you should not do with yourself and your own life: do not think in such a way that you are having a child so that they will take care of you in old age. Bring you a glass of water. Do not count on this. Just love your child, because the child mirrors you. If you force the child expecting gratitude, their life might go so off track that it's simply a broken life. Such children often live with a sense of guilt, and they try to become parents to their own parents. Do not do this to your child. Instead, make sure you have enough funds so that you can feel confident in your old age. Take care of your health. If you fear that you will be sick or helpless, then stop using harmful substances and start exercising. Take care of your health so that you remain active and healthy into old age and do not become a heavy burden on your child's shoulders. A child will want to give back to their parents only when they have this love in their heart. If you have sown that love, then you will reap a good harvest, but not because of the child's guilt, not because of the obligations you imposed on them with your expectations, but because they want to do it voluntarily, not to earn the title of a good daughter or a good son to your child. You did not give life to your child as a loan, you gifted life to them. The eighth thing you shouldn't do to yourself: never say, I can't. Just honestly admit to yourself that you don't want to do something. People justify themselves with these, I can't. Oh, the circumstances are like this. They justify their unwillingness. If a person that desires, they will do incredible things. Just don't whine, don't complain, but start doing something to achieve your goal. And replace the words I can't simply with I don't want to. The words I consider good, sure, I want. The ninth thing you shouldn't do to yourself is not to expect recognition from people, acknowledgement. Don't expect praise. If you are doing some work for money, do it for the money and for your own inspiration. If besides your salary, your income, you also need to hear from people how well you handle the task, then you are creating a dependency between yourself and others. And this dependency lies in the fact that you are trying to additionally extract some more, an invisible hidden fee from a person to receive this praise. People who buy a product or service from you are not obliged to give you additional recognition. If you have such a deficit problem, a need, you must understand that no one will fill this void. It's like an insatiable kind that all their life tries, maybe even through manipulative ways, to gain recognition and praise. Better to cultivate this internal recognition on your own. Praise yourself for every goal you achieve, for every task, even the simplest one that you accomplished today. You can even every day there on a piece of paper, a notebook, write down 3 things for which I can either be proud of myself or praise myself. And 10th, very important, do not ignore your childhood traumas. Every person must recognize their childhood trauma so that the trauma does not control their life. To master this trauma and become a conscious adult human being. Thus, if you become a conscious adult, the quality of your life will be better. And consequently, the world will be better